Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Thank you everybody for coming. Srila Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu ki jai. So I will be giving people an opportunity to unmute themselves in a bit. But my name is Ekendra Das. I'll be your servant of ceremonies for the morning. And we have just a few housekeeping notes I need to share with everyone. Let's see. If you Yeah, I think everybody has given themselves a proper name in the Zoom chat window. I didn't see any numbers or any impersonal prison-like identification types like that. So we all know who everybody is. And I wanted to welcome everybody to this virtual Vyasa Puja, the first of its kind. We will see how it goes. To try to make things as inclusive as possible. That is our job, so it seems more like a party than a transmission from the International Space Station or something like that. We'll try to keep everyone's video on so Gurudev can see you. You already know where the bathrooms are, so there's no need to go over that. And for anyone not so experienced with Zoom among our attendees today, there are controls along the lower edge of the screen that allow you to unmute yourself when it's your turn to offer an homage, as well as start and stop your video if you need to. Meanwhile, everyone else can see what you're doing, so just be aware of that. For example, if you have to blow your nose, let's say, or do anything that you don't need anyone to see, or have a clandestine snack, turn your video off and then turn it back on. And if you're having any difficulties or have questions with the interface, Tulasi Priya will try to help you. Just click her name in the chat window and let her know what you need help with. And while it would be nice to have everyone's mic on all the time, that just won't work with Zoom. It would be a total confusing mess. So everyone will be muted most of the time unless you're speaking in homage or leading a kirtan. One of the exceptions is that very shortly, I'm going to unmute everyone so that Gurudev can hear that you're here, and I will count to 3, and then you can give everyone else an appropriate exclamation of your joy at participating. So 1, 2, 3.
Hare Krishna!
Gurudev!
Happy birthday, Maharaj!
Happy birthday!
Hare Krishna!
Happy birthday, Maharaj!
Guru, happy birthday, happy Vyasa Puja. This is Atul Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. Wish you very happy returns of the day.
All right, that was fantastic. Also, in the interest of everyone's health, I'll be taking a few designated stand-up breaks, and during the kirtans, everyone can get up and dance. That will be healthy. And also during kirtans, only the kirtan leader's mic will be switched on for the sake of clarity. Trust us on this one. This means that everyone else can play and sing along at home, but you will be muted so you can enjoy and everyone else can also. I highly recommend this. It's actually fun. You can try this at home. And we're going to stick to a standard Vyasa Puja schedule. So first we'll have Mangalacharana and Pushpanjali led by His Grace Kulapradipa Prabhu, during which we can all recite all the prayers in unison. Again, for the sake of clarity, only Kulapradipa Prabhu's mic will be live, but please, everyone, participate at home as loudly as you feel necessary. Then we'll have Pushpanjali, at which time, if you happen to have flower petals at the ready, you'll be able to throw them at your video screen. And Sraddhadevi will be offering flowers there in person. So even if you don't happen to have flower petals yourself, you can mentally throw them and actually see flower petals cascading from the top of the screen to the bottom. It will be mystical. Then we will have Guru Puja. Sraddhadevi is there in person to offer arati, but those of you with arati paraphernalia can simultaneously offer arati on all the 14 planetary systems. And I believe Shraddha will be virtually passing around the ghee lamp and the flower, etc. Unfortunately, there's no virtual means of passing out cookies this year, so we wanted you to know that up front because we know how important those cookies are. After Guru Puja, everyone will be able to offer homages, and I will let you know in advance, as far as I'm able, of when it's your turn to speak, so you can be unmuted and ready to go. Then after our homages, I'll invite Gurudev to speak to us, and then there will be a big feast consisting of whatever you have cooked right there in your own home. All right, so now one more time in just a moment, I'm going to unmute everyone so Gurudev can again make sure we're still on board. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Haribol!
Haribol!
Israel Ki Jai!
Hare Krishna.
Happy birthday, Gurudev. Hare Krishna.
Jai Gurudev.
Glorious day. Wonderful day.
All right. Okay, thank you all very much for that. So also to start things off today, I'm going to invite His Grace Girigovardhana Prabhu to say something about Vyasa Puja, past and present. And because he has attended several, I know he has plenty to say about that. So I'm going to ask Girigovardhana Prabhu to unmute himself and to start us off if he is ready. Are you there, Girigovardhana Prabhu?
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
So, in Vyasa Pujas in the past, say 25 or more years ago, you would see that Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu would be extremely uncomfortable as opposed to how he looks today. And in fact, from all external appearances, it seemed that Vyasa Puja was something that he was forced to endure very painfully once a year, and did it only out of duty. And I think his discomfort had something to do with the mood of the Vyasa Pujas at that time. They were dominated by a notion of worship and glorification. And I think at that time, there were a lot of us who were young devotees, and also there were quite a few of us who were temple devotees. And so, our whole life was worship. We go through a morning program, you worship the deities, worship Tulasi, worship Srila Prabhupada. And we also sing the 2 bhajans that we're going to sing today in praise of the spiritual master, the Girigovardhana and the Gurvashtakam, by our great acharyas, which are all full of glorifications of the Guru. And so it seemed kind of, I think, natural for us to have that kind of mood and think that when we made our offerings, would be, like little takurs and try to praise the Guru in as much as we possibly could. And there was one particular Vyasa Puja sometime in the early 90s. I'm not sure exactly what year it was, when Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu kind of set us straight a little bit. And he told us, he said that many of you, and I was one of the guilty parties at that time, have talked about my appearance. And he said, according to his experience, that he was born into this world and had been saved by Srila Prabhupada. And then he went further, and he said that he had no thought that he would fall down or intention of falling away from the path, but that because he did not consider himself a liberated soul, that was not a foregone conclusion. And then he continued and kind of told us how that was okay. He mentioned how he became a spiritual master in the first place, how he'd been part of the Guru Reform movement, and part of what happened there was that it was open to have more people become spiritual masters. And unexpectedly, because he was one of the leaders of the movement, he was expected to be one of the people that became a spiritual master. And so he at first felt like he was not qualified, I think, for those same reasons, that he wasn't a transcendent being to begin with, and maybe hadn't attained liberation by that time also. And then he was looking through the Srimad Bhagavatam, and there was a purport in the 4th canto where he said he usually doesn't do this, but he was just looking randomly through it and came upon this particular purport where Prabhupada said that this Krishna Consciousness Society is directly receiving guidance from Lord Krishna through those persons who are strictly following his instructions. And that those who are strictly following his instructions and act on the liberated platform. And so then he understood then that even if you are a sadhaka, if you're strictly following, you can do the job. You're open both to divine guidance, and also you're able to act on a higher platform. And so he felt more comfortable about doing that. And then he also saw for himself a particular role that he could play as a spiritual master. He said that he didn't think he knows he couldn't have written Srila Prabhupada's books, but he could teach them. That was his expertise. And we've all benefited from that. I know that when I moved into the temple, I'd read all of Srila Prabhupada's books. I had some kind of general idea of what it was, but I didn't understand how much more I had to learn until I encountered Srila Prabhu's teachings. He showed me how to go so much deeper into it. And if you look at it, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Saraswati, and Srila Prabhupada, they performed this function of reorganizing, revitalizing, reforming Gaudiya Vaishnavism for the purpose of having it be able to be spread all over the world. And so they acted as acharyas in that sense. Prabhupada talks about acharyas as one who leads by example and those people that can kind of establish the movement for a purpose or for the particular circumstances. And but for that to have any value, there has to be those persons who can receive the tradition and pass it on. And so, so his expertise was something that was essential, just as essential as having the Gaudiya Vaishnavism be reformed and renewed. And then and so what happens at that point is that the focus changes from what the guru is to what the guru does. And I will argue that even with persons who are liberated or Shaktivesh avatars or eternal associates of Krishna entering into the material world, that it's what they do more than what they are that makes the difference. As some people want to portray Prabhupada as being continuously inspired by Krishna, continuously guided by Krishna, that he could never have had the doubts he had when he was in Boston Harbor about how he could reach people. Here, Krishna, how you brought me to this terrible place? How can I make these people understand? But if you take it that Krishna just basically inhabits their bodies, then the devotion is gone from it. So in any case, that's the important part, what they do. And so I've seen over the years how Vyasa Puja now is less about worship and glorification, more about appreciation and gratitude. And the mood has become a lot sweeter, and Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu seems a lot more comfortable with that situation, and it just makes more sense for us that we can appreciate what he's done for us and be able to express that, and that's a legitimate thing to do. One further thing, is that he not only has he taught us Srila Prabhupada's books, but he's had the insight to understand what's the most important thing that he should focus on. And he mentions back in the 80s when the Guru Reform movement started, how he was tasked with trying to understand what was wrong with our movement. And he tried to put himself in the position where he could be inspired by the super soul. He could get that divine guidance, which means he really tried to practice Krishna consciousness as intensely as possible. And he was given that insight, that the main obstacle to our personal growth, the growth of the society, and the health of the organization is really our ability to advance in Krishna consciousness. In other place he's written that the root debility of our society is the difficulty that we have in moving through the stage of anartha nivritti. So he's been able to focus a lot of his teaching on helping us to do that. And I think that's a great service to Srila Prabhupada and to all of us, that our own personal growth, it actually has a huge effect on the society and the organization. Because one last thought is that behind Vyasa Puja is this very astonishing thing, which is that here we are, little insignificant souls. If we take the Caitanya Charitamrita seriously, we're hiding in a little corner of the smallest of countless numbers of material universes. And we've been uninterested in Krishna for we don't know how many lifetimes. And then we have Krishna who's in the spiritual world surrounded by all of his great devotees and so many others. and he's the Rasa Raj. He's enjoying ever increasing ecstasy in all these different varieties of relationship. His situation couldn't be more perfect, and yet he still remembers us here in this little corner of the smallest material universe. He still cares about us, and he still reaches out to us, and he does that particularly through his devotees. And to me, that's the most astonishing thing possible, and a cause for great rejoicing. And without that, we wouldn't be having a Vyasa Puja. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Jai, thank you so much, Girigovardhana Prabhu. That was so nice. Thank you very, very much. All right, so now moving on to the next part of our program. If he's ready, Kulapradipa Prabhu will lead us in Mangalacharana and Pushpanjali. And remember, only his mic will be live, but please, everyone at home, join in, and so that we can be connected by the transcendental sound vibration. So if Kulapradipa Prabhu is ready, I'll ask him to please lead us in Mangalacharana, and let's make sure if his mic is muted or not.
Check. Can you hear me?
We can totally hear you, Prabhu.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Gurudev.
Jai.
Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Caitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Adi-devi Dayitaya Kritabdhaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhuryo Jvala Prematya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarane Rupanuga Virudappi Siddhanta Bhante Harine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Shadvairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambu Jayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchitanandanamine Gaura Shakti Svarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Vir Bhava Bhumestvam Nirdeshta Satjana Priyaha Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Shri Jagannatayate Namaha Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavedanyaya Krishna Prem Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Goratvise Namaha Panchatattva Makam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Svarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dhinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Suruto Pangor Mamamanda Matergati Matsarvasva Patambojao Radha Madana Mohanao Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadha Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanastau, Srimad Radha Shrida Govinda Devau, Praise the Libhi Sevyamano Smarami, Shriman Rasara Sambi, Vamshi Vatata Stitaha, Karshan Venos Vaner Gopir, Gopinata Shriyestunaha, Taptakansana Gaurangi, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Rishabhanu Sute Devi, Pranamami Hari Priye. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimate Ravindra Svarupa Das Eti Namane, Gurudev Divya Diya, Asastra Siddhanta Jite, Prabhupada Bhakti Marg, Rakshanaya Namostute, Esha Pushpanjali, Srila Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimate Ravindra Svarupa Das Eti Namane, Gurudev Divya Diya, Asastra Siddhanta Jite, Prabhupada Bhakti Marga, Rakshanaya Namostute, Esha Pushpanjali, Srila Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimate Ravindra Svarupa Das Eti Namane, Gurudev Divya Diya, Asastra Siddhanta Jite, Prabhupada Bhakti Marg, Rakshanaya Namostute, Esha Pushpanjali, Srila Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu Ki Jai.
Jai. Thank you so much, Kulapradipa Prabhu. Hare Krishna. That was fantastic. All right, so now it's time for our Guru Puja. So I would like to invite Ratna-bhusana-bhusana Prabhu to lead us in singing Sri Guru Vandana during the Arti, which you can now simultaneously offer as previously mentioned. And the items in the in-person Arti will also be offered to everyone via the video camera. And as your living space allows, we can offer obeisances and get up and join in Kirtan with your own instruments and dance, and we shall see how it goes. And I'd like to ask Ratna-bhusana-bhusana Prabhu, if he hasn't already done so, to unmute himself so that we can start with the Kirtan and Arti. Hare Krishna.
Jai, Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Shri Guru Sharana Padmaya Kevalo Bhakti Sadma Bandhu Moe Sabadana Mate Jahara Prasade Bhave Bhagatoriya Jai Krishna Prapti Ho Jahate Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Dete Korea Arna Kori Homage Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati Je prasade phule sarva asha Chakurana dilo je jane jane Prabhu se Divya Gyan Vide Prakashito Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasha Jate Vedegai Jahara Charito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu Loknata Lokera Jivana Prabhu Paradaya Deho Mure Adachaya Prabhu Paradaya Deho Mure Adachaya Ebe Yasha Vishu Trihu Dana Shri Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu ki jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai
All right. Hare Krishna. Thank you for offering the items to the camera.
Smello Rama.
All right. Okay. Too many things at once. Okay, Hare Krishna. So Samsara dava nalalita loka Chanaya karunya ganaganatam Praptasya kalyana gunanavasya Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Paditramajan Manasura Romachatam Ashutaranga Bhajo Ande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Shri Vigraharadhana Nityanana Shingaratan Mandiramajanado Yuktasya bhaktam chaniyunjatopi Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam Chaturveda Shri Bhagavad Prasada Pradhana Kirtan Hari Bhakta Sangha Vitvaiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Shri Radhika Madhava Yorapara Madhurya Leela Gunarupanam Nam Pratikshana Svadana Lolupasya Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam Nikunjaya Murati Kelisita Yaya Vidya Vikshaniya Tatrati Daksharati Valabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Sakshadhari Dvena Samasta Shastre Uttastata Bhavyata Eva Sadhi Kintu Prabhoya Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam Yasya Prasada Bhagavad Prasado Yasya Prasada Nagati Kutomi Yayam Suvams Tasya Shakti Sangha Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Samsara Dava Nalalita Loka Chanaya Karunya Ganaganatam Praptasya Kalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Thank you very much, Ratna-bhusana-bhusana Prabhu and Tulasi Priya for the Kirtan. And now I think it's time for one of our designated standing breaks. So let's, in the interest of everyone's health, sanity, and prosperity, stand up and breathe. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Brief standing break.
Give it at least 30 seconds.
And if Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu has any suitable music for a 3-minute standing break, that would be fantastic.
Krishna Kirtan Dana Prabhu Premamritam Vanidhi Veera Veera Jana Priya Priya Karo Nemai Sadam Pujitam Chaitanya Kripa Bharau Bhubi Bhuba Para Tarakau Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujugo Sri Jiva Gopalakau Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujugo Sri Jiva Gopalakau Krishna Italagana Krishna Kirtana Kala Nartana Paramu Prema Metamani Veera Veera Jana Priya Priya Karo Mema Pujitam Chaitanya Kripa Bharau Chaitanya Kripa Bharau Bhuvi Bhuva Maraba Antarakau Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujugo Sri Jiva Gopalakau
All right, Hare Krishna. I think we're back. We're back at the 2020 Vyasa Puja ceremony. And it's time now for devotees to read their homages. And we have a list of everyone who has so far volunteered to do so. And with all the windows I have open, I just have to find that particular one. So bear with me just a moment. Sometimes we've done this in the past by seniority, according to the year someone is initiated. Other times we've done it alphabetically. This year, because we have so many different people from so many different places, I think we're doing it according to the number of yojanas one is from the plane of Bhumandala. And so I think one of the people who's coming from particularly far away today is Haryasva Prabhu. So he's at the top of my list and everyone else's for people we'd like to hear from. So if he can unmute himself, we would love to hear from Haryasva Prabhu. Hare Krishna. See if we can find him here.
I found him. Says he's unmuted, but we're not hearing him.
Okay.
Maybe frozen.
Hmm. Haryasva Prabhu, can you acknowledge with a hand signal that you can hear us? Because we can't hear you right. Okay. We can see you, but we can't hear you yet. So what we're working on, making sure that you're heard. I could hear you before.
Maybe his microphone isn't plugged in because we see his mouth moving and he's not muted on the screen.
No, I did not unmute it. Can you hear me now?
Totally, we can totally hear you now. In fact, if you have speakers on, maybe you can turn them down because we're hearing some.
Push that one. Yours, it's someone in the back of us. It's Visnu Ratna. Okay. But the main thing is,
and
I can't.
If you can tilt your screen down maybe a little bit so we can see you a little bit better, that would be good too.
Hi, this is Lucy calling from Uber Eats. Just to let you know that your restaurant is currently unavailable.
I don't know how to do that. Take that out, Vishnu. Don't worry about seeing me. Just let me see Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu, and everything's fine.
All right, we can hear you.
Okay, but I still don't see him.
All right, let's see about that.
He has to pin that video.
Here he is. Hare Krishna, Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. You know, I've been thinking about this for the last few days. I have no idea how this is going to come out, but I'm going to do the best I can. I was thinking about you, and I think I was 23 when I met you in 1975. And you were the first person to preach to me besides my brother. And that first meeting we had, you told me that I was a devotee and to go home and bring my things and to move into the temple. And I said, I don't know you. I can't do something like that. You said, listen to me. Go home, get your things, and move into the temple. I said, plus, sometimes I have a very bad attitude in the morning. I said, so I don't know. I said, plus, I like my material life. This is what I've been looking for all my life. So now my spiritual life will be fine. He said, listen, you're wanting the sun and the moon at the same time. It's not going to happen. You're going to suffer, and then you're going to come back and move into the temple. I said, well, what you say may be true, but I think I'll have to suffer because I don't really know. And man, did I suffer. It was so difficult. And I made us both suffer because from that time on, somehow you took it upon yourself to continue to help me. And I always had such a bad attitude. Simply, you always kept telling me, listen, I'm not asking much of you. Just be like your brother. And I said, I'm not my brother. So anyway, as things moved on, I remember, I didn't tell you, but when I went home, I wrote that I had met you. I said, and I was writing a letter, I was trying to find myself. I said, today I met a holy man. I said, he was a genuine holy man. And I had been asking different priests and people to tell me about God. and no one could really tell me about God. They told me to calm down. I had to wait. But the first meeting, you start talking about Krishna and Srila Prabhupada like anything, you know? And so I remembered, and as I began to read Bhagavatam and the Gita and the purports, I've developed a relationship with Srila Prabhupada. I loved hearing his voice in the purports. And sometimes when he started to preach, you know, directly about Krishna and joining this movement and how much of a benefit it was, I would become so excited. And then I realized one day why I considered you a holy man, because the holy man that I really met was Srila Prabhupada. But you made me think of Srila Prabhupada. The whole persona about you is what really made me attached to coming back to seeing you, asking you all those questions. And I said, wow. And you know, Prabhupada was the only person, so we didn't know anything about spiritual masters. But as the years went on, you promised me when you came back and I was initiated, you said, maybe I shouldn't have asked you to be like your brother. Maybe I should have told you to be yourself. You said, but if I can, I will always help you. And I really held you to that benediction. For decades, you always had to help me. You know, for so many years, you told my Guru Maharaj, no, I still need him to help with me, to work with me. So I stayed. Whether the relationship was in front or whether you were behind the scenes, you were always there in my life. My service of book distribution was given to me by you. My service of going to open the first preaching center was given to me by you. The restaurant, which became my service for decades, that was given to me by you. So all those services that I've had in my life over the decades, they were always given to me by you. With to speak of the fact that you introduced me to my Guru Maharaj and you taught me to love and become attached to Srila Prabhupada. So I was thinking, what could I possibly do to reciprocate? And as I told you years ago, it's getting to the point that I don't feel like I can pay you back. And you said, well, that's okay. Just keep working at it, you know. But these last few months during the COVID, you know, shutdown, there's been another phase in my life where I've been wanting to really come closer to Prabhupada and Krishna. I don't want to leave this world without feeling as though that because I'm not a Diksha disciple of Prabhupada, which I'm grateful, but I'm still his Shiksha disciple. Those instructions that Prabhupada gave all of you, those instructions were meant for us too. And to the extent that we hear them, then we really have to work hard to not only do the service, but let that change of heart manifest. And so I feel like a slacker. I feel like I'm a part of a generation that's lost the intensity of adhering to the instructions of Prabhupada. And I've watched you over the decades. Whether it was easy or difficult, you just never stopped trying to make sure that you were doing Prabhupada's work. So I thought these conversations that we've had these last several months have been so nurturing to me. So I could say thank you, but actually I thought about it and I'm going to go as far as I can in my heart. And in my heart, I'm going to tell you how much I thank and appreciate you for all the help you've given me over the decades. And my thought is that if I really, really tell you in my heart, then you'll feel it. You'll know that these aren't words that you can mean it. I hope you can feel it because I really, really want you to feel it. Thank you so very much for being that very special friend in my life. I couldn't imagine life without you. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Thank you so much, Haryasva Prabhu. Jai, Jai, Jai. Next, as far as our very distant participants, I would like to invite Ramananda Prabhu, who is in Hawaii, to unmute himself and come on the video and offer his, if he has something prepared, that's fantastic.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Totally hear you okay. Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, this will be really quick. I wanted to say that I met Ravindra Svarupa, or the first time I met Ravindra Svarupa, I was somewhat intimidated. My first impression was he was an esteemed older person. I joined the society when I was 16 years old. And when I met Ravindra Svarupa, I was in my 20s. So he was not only probably 10 years my senior or more, but he was also a GBC. So he was not only a mature, sober person, but he was also one of the highest ranking persons in the society. So when he became the GBC in Detroit, I believe it was in the early 90s, if I remember correctly. But we had gone through Jayatirtha and Rameshwar and Bhavananda, who, of course, they all had their problems. A lot of them originating in Detroit. And as a consequence, we had really lost our faith in the leaders. So finally, when he came, we had like a stable, reliable leader, but he came into I would say, a hostile environment, or at least it was less than enthusiastic. So my relationship with him was being, one of the temple devotees was a little bit rocky, in that I think I was a burden for him. Not that I ever remember being disrespectful, but more like I was not a serious devotee, because you can see devotees come in different levels of advancement. Some come very advanced and some not. So I came without any intention of giving up my material desires. As you all must know, Detroit Temple, Devasadan Mandir, is this beautiful mansion built by Lawrence Fisher. So my goal was that I would become a multi-billionaire, greater than Lawrence Fisher, and I would leave Ambarish Prabhu in the dust, basically speaking. So, I wanted all kinds of heavenly pleasures in this lifetime, in the supreme heaven in the spiritual world, because I was initiated. I chanted 16 rounds and I was a card-carrying member of ISKCON. So I was the chosen one, and I figured I was saved, and I deserved all these things. And then in complete contrast, Ravindra Svarupa, his Krishna consciousness was scary. He was always uncompromisingly Krishna conscious, and it was always at you. We need to give up material desires and be 100% Krishna conscious, which I found very scary. And I told him at a certain point that, because he was always honest, so I had to be honest. I said that I don't want to be poor like you for the rest of my life. So he has helped me in my Krishna consciousness for years, being exemplary of what is Krishna consciousness, that one should strictly follow, and don't water down the philosophy for sense gratification, no compromises, and always that simplicity, to not overcomplicate the process. I've always been inspired by his integrity, always somebody that you could rely on, and taking on responsibility, to take up any service, come hell or high water, and to follow through no matter what. And I guess just the real, the honesty, that he was never pretentious, not trying to impress anyone, that he was more than what he was. So for me, I joined very young, and I was kind of like a rebellious teen, almost like, at least certainly in mentality. And Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu was always kind of like a strict, uncompromising father figure to me that later on I came to really admire. There's a greeting card. You ever seen those greeting cards at the counter? They have like animal figures with big features, like big smiles and eyes and stuff. So there's one of a cat with these big eyes, very worried, and it says in the lettering, "Oh my God, Mom was right." So I never became rich or anything else. But I would say to Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu that it's kind of like that greeting card. Hey, Mom, you were right. This is Krishna consciousness, and everything else is not worth the endeavor. So thank you very much for your association, your inspiration over the years. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Ramananda Prabhu. And now I would like to invite Paramananda Prabhu, who is next on my list here. If he's got something ready to go, he can unmute himself. And after Paramananda Prabhu, I'd like Yadunatha Prabhu to get ready because he is on deck. Hare Krishna. Paramananda Prabhu, are you ready?
I'm ready. Hear me okay? Everybody hear me? Ekendra, am I being heard?
Audio is not so, it's not coming through, Paramananda.
All right.
Can you switch microphones or?
Let me switch.
Very weak. We're not really getting you. You want to try again?
Can you hear me now, Ekendra?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
So much for the.
Whatever you just did, do it in reverse because we stopped hearing you again.
How about that?
That's good. Don't do anything but that.
All right. I'm Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Ravindra Svarupa Dasi Tinamane Gurudeva Dividya Shastra Sananta Jide Prabhupada Bhakti Marga Rakshanaya Namostate. Jai Gurudev. So I was thinking about what I was going to say, and the thing that's been popping into my mind for the past few days was the first time that I met you, because it was such an instructive time for me, and it really spoke volumes about your character and also volumes about the role that you would play in my life. So just to give a little backstory, I was living at Gitanagari as a brand new devotee. I sort of kind of got into Krishna and I immediately moved to a temple. I really didn't know too much. I was living at Gitanagari, and there wasn't a lot of devotees that were living at the farm. And it was a lot of work. It was like a lot of physical labor. I mean, it was literally like 10 hours of work a day. You'd wake up, you go to morning program, and then it was like shoveling, chopping down trees, putting up fences, baling hay. So one day, just out of the blue, this is pre-internet, Raghunath heard that I became a devotee and Shelter needed a guitar player. So he had called up Gitanagari, and there was only one phone. Barely anybody ever answered that phone. But someone picked up the phone. I don't know who it was, but Raghunath said that he said, "Hey, is there a person living at the farm named Bhakti Purcell?" And the person said, "Well, there is a new person here. I'm not quite sure what his name is, but he looks a lot like you." So Raghunath, just on that information of, he thought maybe I was living there, packed up the car. Ekendra was there too. Krishna Caitanya was there, and Shelter sort of drove down to the farm. And when they came in, I was sort of like knee deep in cow manure shoveling. And they walked in, and you know, Raghunath said, this is Krishna's arrangement. We need a guitar player. You've surrendered to Krishna. Come back to Philly. And at first I didn't want to do it, but everybody that knows Raghunath knows that he can, you know, sell snow cones to Eskimos. And he really did it on the basis of the Bhagavad Gita, I have to admit. He's like, you know, you're not a farmer. It says in the Bhagavad Gita, you know, it's better to do your duty imperfectly than do another person's duty imperfectly. You're not a farmer. You're a guitar player. You're a communicator. This is your duty. Come back and do shelter. And so he really had me firmly convinced. We all hugged it out. Those guys left. And I was feeling pretty good about it. But then I walked down to the Gita Nagari office and I told the temple president. And much to my surprise, it was not very well received news. And soon it turned into this whole big controversy because, you know, an able-bodied person that was kind of ready and willing to do 10 hours of physical labor was like a rare commodity on the farm. And so it turned into this thing where Raghunath was digging in his heels in Philly and he really wanted me to come there. And Gita Nagari was digging in their heels. They were against it. And I was getting a lot, you know, I was getting a lot of, oh my God. Can everybody hear me? Sorry about that. My daughter just tried to FaceTime me and it knocked me out. Can everybody hear me okay?
We're good. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So people on the farm that saw me were very, very adamant that I shouldn't do it. Sorry, my daughter is recalling me again. We're all good?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And they were almost very antagonistic towards me moving to Philadelphia. So they were very strongly discouraging me. And, you know, I was a brand new devotee. I really didn't know what to do. So they called in the big guns. they called in Gurudev, and he was going to come. He was going to decide the matter. And I remember I was very nervous about him coming. And the day that he was showing up, Mukta, who was the humble flower farmer flower seller at the farm, who was sort of my Bhakti leader, he very much heavied me out. And he said, this person, Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu, he's a huge leader in our movement. He's GBC. And, you know, I really didn't know anything about Vaishnava etiquette at that time. He was like, make sure when you get in there, you do not sit in a chair. You sit on the floor. Do not point your feet at Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu. Do you hear me? Do not point your feet. And then he said, look, I don't know what your thoughts are on whether you want to move to Philadelphia or not, but whatever Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu says, that's what you're going to do. And so I kind of surrendered to it. And I remember I walked in and Gurudev, you were sitting at the desk. And the very first thing that you said to me was, sit down, and you motioned to the chair. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not supposed to sit in a chair. What do I do? You very, very kindly and politely said, no, you could see, you said, no, it's okay. Please sit in the chair. And so you sat down and, you know, this was a very big moment for me. And you said, you know, you've caused quite a stir, you know, because, you know, Raghunath is really pulling me to have you move to Philadelphia. And, you know, the people at the farm, they don't want to lose a worker. And then you said to me something really amazing. You said, what would you like to do? You know, do you feel comfortable here at the farm? Is this something that you think you could do long term? I know you don't get a lot of personal association with other people. Are you kind of missing the association of people that are your same age? And I would just really like to know, you know, your thoughts on it. And really, I was so blown away just by your introduction, because, you know, I was sort of feeling like a commodity at the time. You know, everybody was telling me what my duty was, and the person that was telling me what my duty was, it sort of neatly fit into their agenda. But here you are, you showed some genuine concern for me and like what I thought about the situation. And really, I was so touched by that. because I could tell right off the bat, you had some kind of, genuine concern over my Krishna consciousness and where the best place for me to kind of practice Krishna consciousness was. And it really endeared me to you that was your approach right off the bat, when everybody else was kind of like, batting me around like, a baseball. And so we had this really nice discussion. I said that and actually at the time, at the farm, I would literally do morning program. There'd be 2 people at the morning program. I would work all day long, sometimes without seeing another person. And, I was feeling kind of lonely at the farm. And I brought that up to you and I said, yeah, that's a concern. It would be nice to see Raghunatha again. And, the way that he described the Philadelphia temple with, with a lot of people there and a lot of young people and a lot of service to do, it seemed like sort of an attractive thing for me. So we talked for maybe like a half an hour, 45 minutes. And then you said, okay, I think it's a very good idea for you to come to Philadelphia. And I think you'd really feel at home there, which actually, was, probably one of the greatest decisions, life-changing decisions that we kind of came to together. And, I always felt like that. I always felt like above and beyond, what the duty was, in Krishna consciousness, there's a lot about duty and doing your responsibility and your psychophysical nature and being properly engaged. But really, even above that is love and love for Krishna and that kind of like, and the devotees. And that trumps even what, your duties and these lesser things are to bring you to that platform of love. So I always felt that kind of love coming from you, that even beyond the duties and the things that we had to do, you had this kind of genuine love and concern for me, which was much higher than that. And, even when I got to Philly and we were doing shelter and we were going on tour, there was a lot of people that were really against it. And, there was a lot of senior devotees. I won't mention names. They're all great souls. They personally told me, you should just be out doing books. You should just be out doing books. And, there was even some very senior, some of the most senior devotees in the movement told me, told all of us, told the band, this is an embarrassment to Srila Prabhupada. This whole punk rock thing, it's like a blight on the Krishna consciousness movement. Stop this before it gets any bigger. But, you always encouraged us to do it. And I never got the sense that you were encouraging us to do it because, even though it was sort of good preaching and we were bringing a lot of kids to the temple, I don't think that was your real, MO for encouraging us. I always got the sense of that you thought this was a good thing for us. Krishna consciousness isn't one size fits all. It's not that you can just throw anybody out in the street with a stack of books. And even though that's a very noble thing, that's not going to be something that's going to enliven people in the long run. I think you saw us all as a bunch of sort of like artistic, creative people that like to connect with other people, and that this would be good for us. It was sort of a way of us to take our talents and abilities and channel them in a Krishna conscious way so that we would become devotees for the long haul. And it was like really that broad-minded thinking, which at the time, it wasn't like that at all. It was like you moved into the temple, you towed the line, you got out there on the streets and you did books, and there was a lot of people that just couldn't do that and they left. But I think it was your broad thinking, which really sort of encompassed a bunch of punk rockers, and you very kind of like gently spoon-fed us bhakti and encouraged us to use what we had, but use it in Krishna's service. And it was really refreshing, and it was you always treated us like we were kind of like your loving sons, and you always cared for us, and you showed that to us. And I really think that, the Krishna consciousness movement is in so much of a better place than when we joined. And it's really due to your kind of broad-minded, broader thinking of how we can encourage and accommodate people in the Krishna consciousness movement, that even today, like, your thinking has sort of really kind of trickled down and really taken hold in, in the movement. Now we have places like the Bhakti Center and, wonderful places where people don't have to shave up and, put on orange robes to become devotees. And so I just wanted to say that I really appreciate you and your love and your kindness, especially, to me in my younger years. And it was your influence in my younger year that really radically changed who I am today, and the trajectory that my life took in so much of a better way. So thank you so much for initiating me. Thank you so much for connecting me with Krishna. And I hope to always remain your servant. Haribol.
Jai. Thank you so much, Paramananda Prabhu, Nitai Gaur, Haribol. Next, I'd like to invite His Grace Yadunatha Prabhu. If he's ready, he can unmute himself. And after Yadunatha Prabhu, Ekanta Bhakti, it's her turn. So you can unmute yourself, Yadunatha Prabhu. I'll get you up on the video here. All right. You're good to go.
Homage Introduction. Dyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vachakalpatrubhyas Chakrapasindubhi Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha. I don't want to say this is difficult for me, but it's a little, something's going on, I'm thinking about selling this Bhakti True Swami a lot. And when I was thinking about what I wanted to say, I just kept on not coming up with anything. I mean, there's so much affection and gratitude I have for you, Ravindra Svarupa Maharaj. But nothing was sort of coming together in my mind. I just knew that I wanted to say something. I just didn't know what it. I said I don't know what it is. Still, I don't know what it is, but I want to say something. My Guru Maharaj, as you know, he loved you, and he admired you so much, and he so much appreciated your contributions and your intelligence, and the way you brought your intelligence to Srila Prabhupada, his movement and his devotees. I'm just going to be brief. I really have a lot of respect for you, and I have so much appreciation for you. And we've heard speakers already talk about how you've helped them so much. And that's also true of me as an individual. I'm also looking at it as for our society, the amazing amount of care and help that you've given our society. Many of the things that Paramananda Prabhu was just saying about himself as an individual can also be applied to Prabhupada's International Society for Krishna Consciousness. The care that you give it, your broad-minded forward thinking has gotten us out of so many jams. Recently the David Susskind video has resurfaced, and it's been making the rounds a little bit. Such a classic. When is that going to happen with the Sally Jesse Raphael show? I want to see that popping up on YouTube more, because it's something I would love to see again. I saw it once decades ago, but it really points to the kind of thing I'm talking about. I don't remember what was going on before you came out on stage, but I think there was a lot of like bickering between some Bhakti Pod people in the audience and whoever else the devotees were on stage. In typical sort of like that kind of daytime talk show fashion where they were kind of just wanted the blood. But when you came out, I still remember this just sort of palpable, okay, we're safe now. It's good, he's here now. And it was just, you brought an anchor to the proceedings and a maturity and a rationality and a sense, you know, and you've done that consistently throughout for ISKCON and for so many individuals, whether they be direct disciples or others. So I just want to again express gratitude to you and for all of these things, and respect and love for all you do. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Jai, Jai, Jai. Thank you, Yadunatha Prabhu. Namaha, Namaha, Hare Krishna. So next on my list here is Ekanta Bhakti Devi Dasi Prabhu Mataji. So we can hear you because we know your mic works. So please go ahead when you're ready.
Dear Srila Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to you on your appearance day. I had an interesting insight recently that centered improbably on my father-in-law's dog. He's a rescue dog, sweet but very skittish. He had been abused by his previous owners and seesawed back and forth between snapping and running, fight or flight. He was always anxious and he didn't take kindly to anyone being in his space. But if you were calm and patient and let him come to you, he settled down and you could see his loving nature. I realized that, like that animal, I have wandered through this existence, being hurt over and over, not knowing why or how to make it stop. I've shivered in fear and tried to hide. I've lashed out and fought back. The pain and confusion always came for me anyway. I desperately searched for love and protection, but couldn't find it. Fortunately, Krishna consciousness came into my life, presenting an alternative paradigm to this frantic quest. Unfortunately, many of its treasures were beyond my comprehension. Then I read your words and I heard you speak. For the first time in my life, I could see that maybe there was something beyond the pain. Maybe there was a way to make sense of this world. Maybe I could dare to hope. Although I was skittish, you were ever patient, always accessible, and just waited for me to come to you. Little by little, tiny step by tiny step, I realized that you were someone I could trust, someone who only wanted to help. And when my conditioning overcame me and I would turn tail and run, you were still there when I could make my way back. You showed me, like that dog, that my happiness would start to come when I learned a little discipline and got rid of my bad habits. That the 4 regulative principles were principles of cognition, not just morality. I would listen to your simple instructions. Quote, when your mind wanders, bring it back. Become Krishna conscious yourself and share it with others. And actually, Krishna wants us more than we want him. For me, with my animal mind, these have been the equivalent of sit, stay, good girl. Sadly, like an animal with little intelligence, I still don't always understand. And sometimes my first reaction is still to fight when backed into a corner. But I finally rest safe knowing you to be my master. Thank you for taking on this lost stray, for rescuing me from this material world and giving me shelter. Please let me always sit at your feet. With humility and gratitude, I remain your servant, Ekanta Bhakti Devi Dasi.
Jai, Jai, Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Ekanta Bhakti. Next on my list here is Adi-devi Dasi, who's in a very distant time zone from the eastern United States. But if you're ready, Adi-devi, you can unmute yourself and I'll get you up on video here as soon as possible.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Hare Krishna, dearest Gurudev. Please accept my fallen obeisances at your lotus feet. It has been 18 years since I first had your darshan. And in all these years, I have known you as a loving father figure, an expert spiritual master, and one of the best servitors of Srila Prabhupada's mission. As a father figure, you were always there for me. You would patiently and lovingly listen to all my material problems, from unemployment to ill health to finding my life partner. I remember the day you drove me up to my work in New Jersey when there were some issues I had. And I remember the day you reached out to me and called me on my mobile phone when I was about to leave Philadelphia. I remember how patiently you would listen to me as I would discuss the suitors for the role of my prospective husband. You were always so giving, and I remember every time I had your darshan in Vrindavan, Mayapur or Mumbai, you would lovingly give me mementos. A few such mementos were a frame from the Brahma Kumaris that depicted the life of virtues that someone had gifted to you, a 24-karat gold-plated frame of Shri Shri Radha Rasbihari Ji, a wooden Om that lit up, and most recently, the beautiful bead bag that you sent to me when my beads broke as my bag came under a mini train at the park. As a spiritual master, you have taught me so much. Your first instruction to me was that Krishna consciousness is an upward climb. In all these years, you have led by example of your patience, humility, compassion, and pridelessness. Your concern for each of your disciples has always touched my heart. I remember the time you performed the ash immersion ceremony for Mother Krishna Premavati in the Yamuna. You were going to be boarding on the boat and you asked if me and my mother were okay. We were accompanying you and Mother Saudamani to the ash immersion ceremony. I remember how lovingly you gave the names to our Nitai Dayal Gauranga at my mother's home in Mumbai. You taught me to love everyone for what they are and be compassionate to people. I used to eagerly wait to listen to your Bhagavatam class every morning when I used to recite at the Philadelphia temple. From then till now, I eagerly wait for your Bhagavatam class every week after week, which happens to be my first activity at the beginning of the week, as it happens to be Monday morning according to New Zealand time. You've been doing your best to serve Srila Prabhupada's mission as a GBC, as a temple president, and now you have taken to dedicate your time and efforts for writing for Srila Prabhupada. Your every instruction to me has always been on basis of what Srila Prabhupada's opinion on a certain matter was. You have brilliantly exemplified and elucidated the beautiful process of Krishna consciousness, when in reality it is a difficult path. I read your words in Srila Prabhupada's, the founder Acharya, and it touched my heart. Something on the lines, how will his mission, his teachings, his vision, his determination, his mercy become one with each and every beating heart? I'm eternally indebted to you for all that you have given me. O beloved spiritual master, you are always in the presence of the cowherd girl Radha, the daughter of King Vishwabhanu. Please award me service at your lotus-like feet, which are the proprietors of devotional service. Please place me in the ocean of joy by bestowing upon me happiness and the mellows of service at the feet of Sri Radha in the groves of Rajadhama. Mukam karoti vachalam pangulangai te girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Your fallen spiritual daughter, Adi-devi Dasi. Hare Krishna.
Jai, Jai, Jai. Thank you so much, Adi-devi Prabhu. That was very nice. Next on my super official looking master list is Sesasayi Visnu Prabhu. If you can unmute yourself, I can get you up on video. Let me know that that's okay and you're ready to go.
All right, was audio good? Can you hear me?
Fantastic. We're ready
Sounds
for
all
you,
right.
Prabhu.
Excellent.
Let's go.
Great. So, Gumaraj was some couple of obeisances of course, Prabhupada. In 1989, when I first came to the Hare Krishna movement, I was 16 years old. Like many of my contemporaries, I was young and foolish. I didn't know anything. I was eager to learn, and I had the budding seed of sincerity, but for the most part, I was just another moron kid. In 2020, I'm 47 years old, and I don't really feel like that much has changed. I might not be so young anymore, but I'm still foolish, still very much in need to learn, possibly a little sincere, but I haven't really accomplished much of anything. Still, basically a moron. In 1989, you were 40 years old, which is 7 years younger than I am right now. You had already earned a BA in philosophy from UPenn, a master's and PhD in religion from Temple University, been initiated by Srila Prabhupada for 18 years, was the Temple President of Philadelphia, an active GBC member, and an initiating guru. Did I miss anything? You had accomplished so much. In my eyes, you were at the top. You were so impressive, and I was in awe. But as a new bhakta who still hadn't really understood anything yet, I didn't quite get it. That resume was material. Your titles and positions had nothing to do with your real accomplishments. And if I understood what your real accomplishments were at the time, my awe would have been tenfold. In 2020, you are, I think, 71 years old. And thanks to you, I have a much better understanding of Krishna consciousness. And I understand your actual resume now. It's not full of positions or titles or material accomplishments. It's full of bhakti and service. Srila Prabhupada explains in Bhagavad Gita 2.8 purport, academic knowledge, scholarship, high position, etc. are all useless in solving the problems of life. Help can be given only by a spiritual master like Krishna. Therefore, the conclusion is that a spiritual master who is 100% Krishna conscious is the bona fide spiritual master, for he can solve the problems of life. Lord Caitanya said that one who is a master in the science of Krishna consciousness, regardless of his social position, is the real spiritual master. Gurudev, you are 100% Krishna conscious, a bona fide spiritual master, and I am more in awe of you now than I ever have been before. Your humble servant, Sesasayi Vishnu Das.
Jai, Jai, Jai. Thank you so much, Sesasayi Vishnu Prabhu. Fantastic. Now, in the interest of everyone's health, I think it's time for another 2-minute standing break, accompanied by some kirtan, so we can get up and move around just a little bit and maintain our health during these difficult times. Hare Krishna. Coming back in 2 minutes.
Lokanam Itakarina Tribhuvane Manna Sarana Tatkarma Sanastapaka Lokanang ito kanina Dikubane Manna Karuna Bandal Sri Caitanya Kripa Barau.
All right, Hare Krishna. We are back at the 2020 Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu Disciples Vyasa Puja. And, I think it's time for us to all again be unmuted briefly so that Gurudev knows that we're still awake and alive. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Hari.
Krishna. We are here to love you.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
So nice to see everybody's faces.
Yep. It is.
All right, thank you very much. So next on our list, we have Pradhana Gopika. And just if she's ready, she can unmute herself and I'll make sure that her video is live so we can all see.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All right, we're all ready.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Namo Vishnu Padaya.
Well put on Guru Maharaj. Is a Zoom conference. It's not in one place.
It's 2020, a year of uncertainty, fear, and disorientation. The virus is shaking the world, and nothing seems to be as it was before. Even ISKCON was reached by the waves and hit by Krishna's providence. Just recently and unexpected, His Holiness Bhakti Charuswami departed from this world for another destination. It seems that the world is trembling, bereft of its brightest stars. Bereft of one of its brightest stars. Prabhupada was calling his loyal servant. Like him, you dedicate your whole life to Krishna, fully surrendered and completely committed. Your thoughts, your feelings, and your doings. Absorbed in service for His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, your spiritual master, ISKCON's founder Acharya, giving the perfect example of what it means to be a devotee, always willing to give respect to others while never expecting respect for yourself, living in reality. It's a year of changes, challenges, and opportunities. It's time for letting go, entrapping desires, tormenting attachments, and false identifications. It's time for diving deeper, time for waking up. I hope, I beg, I pray that I remember this world as not my home, craving for longing for Krishna, wedded to his name and nurturing the desire to surrender, and finally to follow you. Your servant, Pradhana Gopika Devi Dasi.
Jai, Jai, Jai. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I wanted to now invite Karuna Shakti Prabhu, who's next on our list. And if you can unmute yourself, I'll get your...
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
We totally can hear you. Fantastic.
Wonderful.
Yes, please go ahead, Prabhu.
Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. I have been thinking what to write in my homage for this year's Vyasa Puja. I had some ideas and a bit of skepticism regarding them, but last Wednesday I had an enlightening realization. While I was on my way to the temple for the evening program, a homeless man was trying to sell copies of a street magazine, Arts of the Working Class, to earn a little money. It was one of those scenes that one can frequently experience in the local trains of Berlin. I was thinking back at the first and last time I bought a street magazine in 2006. I really tried, but could not find anything interesting in it for me. When I reached the temple, I noticed something odd. At the entrance, which is occasionally littered with empty beer bottles or discarded cigarettes, was a newspaper. €1.50, 100% for the vendors, it said. It was, in fact, a street newspaper. Someone had placed a piece of wood on it to make sure it did not fly away. And that was something that had never happened before. A message for us, I thought. Self-care was the title. Should we be taking better care of ourselves individually? Should the congregation as a whole take better care of itself? Devotee care, as they say nowadays. I read the name of the newspaper. Karuna Compass. It has a part of my name on it. I thought, it's a message for me. So I flipped through the pages to get a grasp of what it was about. Exploitation and neocolonialism, self-worth, self-awareness, an interview with Valeska von Knobloch-Droste, a name that sounds like satire to me. A helpline for homeless people, compassion, solidarity. Looks like some leftist pamphlet. That's nothing for me, I thought. But then on page 2, or actually page 3, I found the only interesting part, a brief explanation for the name of the newspaper. And I quote, in Aldous Huxley's novel Island, the birds of the fictitious island Pala are taught to call out the word Karuna in order to remind the inhabitants of the island of awareness and compassion on a daily basis. How interesting. While I can legitimately be compared to a parrot in some ways, although I'm too heavy to fly on my own, you are certainly much better than Aldous Huxley in so many aspects. When you gave me a new name, a simple but life-changing act, you ensured to make me and others not only utter karuna, but something that has literally more power in it, while simultaneously reminding me that I am a servant. How ingenious. It is said that a spiritual master tries to enlighten his disciples. Though in my case, it may not be easy to achieve that task, you gifted me something that, in a very efficient, mystical, and profound way, inspires me and also others. For that, I'm eternally grateful. Your servant, Karuna Shakti Das.
Jai, Jai, Jai. Thank you so much, Karuna Shakti Prabhu. At a later date, I have to find out where you buy your kurtas, because yours is the most fantastic I've seen all week.
That wasn't Jaipur.
Well, I need to shop at the same place. Gorgeous, my wife says. Next on our list here, I would like to invite, just a moment here. Yes, Anindita Prabhu. Anindita is next. If you'd like to unmute yourself, I'll make sure that you're up on the video so we can see you. Is that all right? Hare Krishna, we're ready.
Hare Krishna.
Jai, we can hear you.
So I'm just trying to get the window up.
Yep. Everything looks good.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Gurudev. I'm so happy to be able to participate in this Vyasa Puja this year. So I'll just read my offering to you. Jai Srila Gurudev, please accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you. Gurudev, I thank you for everything that you have done for us and what you continue to do for all of us. As years pass by, it is dawning upon me that everything that I am today and everything that I have today, in fact, even my comparatively saner state of mind, is only and only because of you. You gave me a wonderful family to be a part of, such a wonderful husband who is so humble and whose only priority in life is to serve devotees, and my in-laws who are such amazing individuals with such a loving and devotional heart. We often say that raising children in Krishna consciousness is like having a Bhakta program. My dear son Maruti is making me go through the Bhakta program myself, along with him. I realize that it's a lot of learning in bringing up a child. Thank you so much, Gurudev. Once when I asked you, many years ago, what you would like me to do in life, you told me that whatever I do, I should always stay in the association of devotees. I did not understand then how important this was, but now, especially in the times of the epidemic that we're going through, when we don't have much personal devotee association, I understand that by myself, I'm still not a devotee. I may exhibit devotional qualities only because of the devotees' association. It's actually their devotion that is reflecting off my heart, seeming to be like my own devotion. I cannot thank you enough, Gurudev, for your prayers and blessings at a point in my life when I felt bereft of substantial devotee association. And because of your prayers, I find that we are in such loving association now of devotees who inspire us to continuously dive deeper into our relationship with Sri Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, and you, our dear spiritual master. In fact, I had first experienced this kind of mood in Philadelphia when I observed you and other devotees close to you. I could sense that Krishna consciousness was not about hurrying to preach to as many people as possible or distributing as many books as possible, basically result-oriented activities. Somehow, unfortunately, this was the way my consciousness was trained. When I came to Krishna consciousness, it was just so driven. And the momentum of this drive was so high that though I experienced in you and others around you something more substantial and valuable, that was of diving deep into the process of Krishna consciousness, yet I could not stop myself from the superficial mad run. In retrospect, I understand that this is why I was totally unfit to serve Guru Mata or you. It was when I lost this association that I realized how rare it was. But thank you, Gurudev, for giving me back this opportunity for such substantial association again with the wonderful devotees whom we are with at present. One phrase, or maybe words, that I cherish so much from our present teacher, Vedanta Prabhu. In his classes, he, in different contexts, he says, Thane Sthita, that is to stay where you are and go deeper. I understand that to be able to do this, one should really relish Krishna consciousness. And you are such a perfect example of someone who relishes Krishna Katha so much. Thank you so much for inspiring us by your loving absorption in Krishna consciousness. Whenever I see the reminder mails from Shraddha for the Tuesday night Krishna book reading and the Sunday Bhagavatam class, I get so enlivened. I so wish to participate, but obviously the desire is not strong enough. I pray to the Lord on this auspicious day that I desire strongly enough to regularly get your association through these classes. We observed your Vyasa Puja today at home in the afternoon, just the 5 of us, because of the pandemic. So during the last 2 days of our preparation, we have been continuously engaged in some activity or the other with you in mind. Could be cooking, cleaning, decorating, contemplating, etc. And this gave me a strong realization. The 5 of us, that is my in-laws, my husband, my son and me, we are together here only because of you. And this was the perfect way for us to be together. That is to think, talk, and act only for you. Every day. It would be a real celebration if our every thought, word, and action could be just an absorption of how to make you happy, to make Srila Prabhupada happy, and hence Sri Krishna happy. I know it's so far away, but it all begins with a desire. So here I start. I'm eternally indebted to you, dear Gurudev, for holding on to me and not letting me drown. Thank you so much. Your servant, Anindita Devi.
Jai, Jai, Jai. Thank you so much, Anindita Prabhu. Thank you very much. Next on our list, I'd like to invite Sraddhadevi to speak. She's there. We might not see her video because she's got all the cameras trained on Gurudev right now, but go ahead, Shraddha. We'll do our best to listen.
Hare Krishna?
Yep, sounds good.
All right. Dear Srila Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to you on the occasion of Vyasa Puja. We have recently endured a great loss, the passing of your godbrother and dear friend, His Holiness Bhakti True Maharaj. In your heartfelt offering to him, you wrote, especially he embodied in his own singular way that particular synthesis of opposites seen in the person of Srila Prabhupada and other great devotees. Although in the breadth and depth of his pure dedication to Guru and Krishna, he is awe-inspiring, the devotee himself seems to be altogether unaware of it. I had seen firsthand in Srila Prabhupada that singular union of greatness and humility, and somehow here it was again, in Bhakti True Swami. When I first read your offering, I was struck by how perfectly and succinctly you captured what was so special about Bhakti True Swami. He was indeed awe-inspiring in pure dedication to Guru and Krishna. He was completely without envy. He genuinely cared for others, and he was utterly clear about his role as a servant of Srila Prabhupada, all the while maintaining such natural humility that he was not even aware of how great he was. Moments after reading your offering, though, it occurred to me that this perfect union of greatness and humility applies to you as well. And that is likely why Bhakti True Swami trusted you and loved you so much. You often say that humility is just realism, but so few actually live in that reality, especially when they are given the opportunity of position. Through decades of service, you have always been clear that you were simply acting as a servant to Srila Prabhupada. And that seems to be the key that both you and Bhakti True Maharaj have understood. When Srila Prabhupada visited Philadelphia in 1975, he spoke on the Guru Vandanam prayers, saying, "This is my order, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya, Chitete Kori Akya. I shall do this only." Boss, he said. My Guru Maharaj told me I shall do this. So it is not my pride, but I can say for your instructions I did it. Therefore, whatever little success you see, then it is due to this. I have no capacity, but I took it. The words of my Guru and as life and soul. So this is fact. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya. Everyone should do that. Gurudev, you learn to take the instructions of your spiritual master as your life and soul from Srila Prabhupada's example. And in turn, you have given us the same opportunity by being exemplary yourself. Making spiritual advancement is not an elusive magic for the few. It is a science that we can all practice. We just have to take your instructions and examples seriously and actually do the work. Thank you, Gurudev, for having dedicated your life to Srila Prabhupada and to Krishna. By doing so, you have become a trustworthy guide for all of us. Thank you also for connecting us to other exemplary devotees such as Bhakti True Maharaj. Please bless me so that I can strengthen my own dedication to you, to Srila Prabhupada, and to Krishna, so that I may improve my practice while endeavoring to follow in your footsteps. Your fallen servant, Sraddhadevi Dasi.
Jai, Jai. Thank you so much, Sraddhadevi. Hare Krishna. I'm next on the list. So let's see if I can make myself visible. Hare Krishna. Jai Gurudev, happy birthday. Prayenalpayusa shabya kalavasmin yuge janaha manda sumanda mattayo mandabhagya hupadruta. O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men almost always have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. It's unfortunately getting easier and easier in this iron age of exponential distraction to lose sight of the forest as tree after tree grabs our fickle attention. The upadruta factor accelerates as our attention spans shrink. Each successive generation sees less and less of the mode of goodness until finally it may become nothing more than the stuff of children's stories. In such a passionate atmosphere, even sincere spiritual aspirants can easily become so fixated on current developments that they lose sight of the ultimate goal. One time in Atlanta, someone asked Srila Prabhupada, "What pleases you the most?" He replied, "If you love Krishna." This came as a refreshing surprise, especially to those who may have expected him to take this chance to single out some specific service or other as the ultimate means of attaining his favor. But no, he reminded his eager to please disciples, don't lose sight of the goal. We're meant to develop our love for Krishna, and that is that. Recently, you gave a talk you called Back to Basics, in which you focused on the importance of chanting while trying to give up offenses. As a member of your online audience, I sensed a wave of relief and exhilaration coming from the other attendees after hearing your straightforward and novel presentation. Like Srila Prabhupada, you were able to sum up the process of Krishna consciousness in very few words. Try chanting attentively. Great teachers like you and like Srila Prabhupada repeatedly stress certain points in hopes that someone in the audience might eventually take note. Oh, maybe this is important. I should write this down. As an expert geologist can find oil in a desert, you have the ability to clearly see the most essential nuggets of significance within mountains of information. Over the years, I've brought many of what I thought were epic problems to you, only to have you sift through my muddy thinking to reveal a tiny hidden central issue I had been avoiding dealing with. At your birthday party last year, Anutama Prabhu said that the GBC used to routinely rely on you to provide solutions to complicated philosophical issues because of your ability to clearly and expertly sum up Prabhupada's desired outcome of any given situation. Krishna says, of those who have attained perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Your keen interest in the Shikshastakam makes me think that you are one of those few who understand Krishna's plan in appearing as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna has a religion, you sometimes say, and that religion is worship of his devotees. And as anyone who pays attention to you will eventually learn, our whole business is to show Krishna that we care about him. We've been given the chanting of Krishna's name as the means of doing so. The point is to cultivate that chanting properly and distribute it to others. There is no other more direct or helpful process for dealing with any issue that may arise anywhere at any time. It's the single best thing we can do for ourselves or for anyone else. This is the forest. This is the big picture, and it's so sadly easy to lose sight of it. As you told me recently, we have shelter of Krishna. Depend on him. I'm a slow learner. I have to hear things over and over again. Trying to chant properly is a life's work. It's not glamorous. It's not always exciting, but it's totally worth the effort. Thanks to your patience and mercy upon me, I have some dim appreciation that the life of Krishna consciousness is the most worthwhile life there is. And I pray that I may someday be able to do for someone else what you and Srila Prabhupada have done for me. Your insignificant servant, Ekendra Das. Thank you, Ekendra Das. Now, I would like to invite Tulasi Priya to unmute herself, and let's see if I can get you up there on the video. Just one moment.
Jai Gurudev, Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. Okay, I don't want to see myself. I want to see Gurudev, so I'm going to shift. So without spending too much time trying to find you here, I as my husband was saying, I have approached you several times, at least many times, seeking solutions to problems and questions. And you have always been there for me. The first time that I recall doing that was, I believe, in 1993. So almost 30 years ago. This was even before I married my husband. You had endeared yourself to me when I decided I was going to be married, my husband, and I wanted to try to get on your good side. He had mentioned to me that you like macrobiotic rice balls. And so I had never even heard of macrobiotic rice balls, but I did have a copy of Sugar Blues in which the author described how to make them, and I just happened to have that. And so I made them and shipped them to you, parcel post to the Philly temple from where I was at the Boston temple. And my then betrothed said to me that when you got them, you said, "There's a girl who knows what to do." That was probably the last time you ever said that about me. But I was so pleased to hear that, and it really made me have more faith in you because you recognized that about me. Not long after that, I was reading something in Prabhupada's books, and I had not been practicing Krishna consciousness very long. Prabhupada said something was about Vasudeva Datta, and Prabhupada said that Vasudeva Datta was even greater than Jesus Christ. And that really triggered me. And I was freaking out. And back then we didn't have cell phones, and I actually, ran up a little bit of a bill on the Boston Ashram phone and called you, sobbing, "Gurudev, I'm having I didn't say Gurudev, sorry. I'm having a crisis of faith." And I explained the situation to you. And I don't remember what you said to me, but I remember still feeling a bit comforted because basically your answer was you didn't know what to say to me. And I thought, wow, I know he's really smart, but he's not trying to pretend that he has the answer to my question and my distress. So it had the unintended, well, maybe not unintended, but it had the effect of boosting my faith in you because you didn't give me some pat answer. You just said, "I don't know. You have to think about it," or I had to think about it. And so that was oddly comforting to me. And then sometime after that, actually this is after we were married, it was 1999, and we were in the throes of the Y2K scare. And I was new to the internet, which you can guess what that means. Every crackpot theory that was going on about Y2K was finding its way into my consciousness. And I was becoming very concerned. Also had some issues with family troubles, issues with my mother, and I needed to get out of there. And so I was also freaking out, and I called you up. And I said, "What about Y2K?" Just like that. "What about Y2K?" And your answer, and I wrote it down on the back of an envelope, which is somewhere stashed in a box, was nothing. And instantly my temperature, my emotional, psychological, mental temperature was reduced by 5 degrees to normal or close to normal. And I knew that I was going to proceed with my plans, but I no longer had any real anxiety about it because I trusted you. I knew that you knew more about the world than I did, and I knew you knew what Krishna's plan for the world was better than I did. So in so many different cases, difficulties with my marriage, we went to you. And if it not for you, who knows if I would still be married. And then one year, you called me with a question. You called me asking me for assistance. And I was very proud because you called because you wanted my gravy recipe. And I gave it to you. And to this day, that's my bragging rights about my gravies, that Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu, who's from the South, asked for my gravy recipe. So in this way, I guess that was my second time that you thought I was a girl who knew what to do. But what I'm leading up to is that we have all this knowledge. We've been given this knowledge. But my realization is that knowledge is not really knowledge. It's not vigyan or realization unless it's embodied. And by embodied, I mean in a person. As we like to say, there's the person Bhagavat and there's the book Bhagavat. So that's another aspect of parampara. The knowledge that we receive is embodied. We have a relationship with that knowledge through the spiritual master. And I've had such a wonderful relationship with you as my guru-in-law, but also as my guru. Let's face it, you're not just a guru-in-law, you're my Shiksha guru. And I remember one time when I was aspiring, I'm initiated by His Holiness Satsrup Maharaj. I was aspiring for him, but he wasn't accepting disciples. And I went to talk to you, and you said, well, if he doesn't initiate you, I'll be glad to. So in one sense, I feel like I have 2 initiating gurus because technically, it happens in the heart. So This is the meaning of parampara. It's not simply that transcendental knowledge gets passed from one person to another, like a plate of mashed potatoes on Thanksgiving Day. Don't forget the gravy. But each disciple, with each disciple taking his portion and passing it on, it's the person passing it. And this is where the analogy kind of breaks down, because what are you? Are you merely the person passing it? Are you the mashed potatoes? Are you the recipe for the mashed potatoes? Did you cook the mashed potatoes? I don't know. I've lost track of the thread here. But I know that we are in the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. And you often remind us that Srila Prabhupada said that there is an ISKCON in the spiritual world. And I imagine like this massive prasadam pavilion where all the different gurus are sitting with all their disciples and their disciples and their disciples, and somehow there's there's no tables because we sit on the floor, of course, but each group there's somebody sitting at the head, and I envision you sitting at the head of that table passing the potato sabji. And I pray that after this crazy homage that, well, I know for sure that I'll never eat mashed potatoes again without thinking of you. And I pray that the same is not true for you. So thank you so much for being there for me in all my times of crisis and all my good times. And the hardest part about this whole pandemic is that I haven't gotten a chance to cook for you in a long while. So I'm praying to Krishna that somehow will change soon. And I hope he keeps you well and gives you very long life, so just to bless us for many years to come. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Jai, Jai, Jai. Thank you, Tulasi Priya. Next, I would like to invite Krishna Caitanya Prabhu to speak. And after Krishna Caitanya, we'll hear from Mahavidya. So let me make sure that Krishna Caitanya...
Jai Gurudev.
Sounds good, Krishna Caitanya Prabhu. We are ready to hear.
Jai Gurudev. All glories to your service, to Srila Prabhupada and his great society ISKCON. I want to share a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which always reminds me of your special power and grace. Satang prasangan mamavirya samvido. Bhavanti hrit karna rasayana kata. Tajjoshanad ashvapavarga vartmani. Shraddharatir bhaktir anu krimishyati. In the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is freed and his attachment becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. Your fidelity to Srila Prabhupada is evident in the depth with which you have studied and practiced his teachings. In the decades that you have taught us, you have never wavered in your commitment to represent the teachings of Lord Krishna as given to the West by Srila Prabhupada. Because of this, your way of teaching is very satisfying to the ear and to the heart. Normally, my heart is burning with a constant flow of material desires that threaten to take me away from the purpose of my human life. My illusions persist despite my small effort in devotional service. Still, there you are, steady and fixed in your devotion, like a light to light our way and navigate our boat across the rough sea. Like the super soul, you are always offering the intelligence we lack and holding our course true north. Thank you for all that you have done to inspire this fallen soul. and please bless me that I may develop a strong taste for hearing, chanting, and serving in the years ahead. Hare Krishna, your servant Krishna Chaitanya Das.
Jai, Jai, Jai. Hare Krishna. Thanks, Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu. Next, I would like to invite Mahavidya to speak. If she's ready, I'll make sure that her video is up, if I can find her on the list here. Yes. All right, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. All right, we can see you. Fantastic.
Hare Krishna. Please allow me to wait another 30 seconds. My husband is just leaving the highway, so the noise is not going to be so disturbing. I'm very sorry.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna, all of you. Hare Krishna, my God siblings. And I'm so happy to be with you, at least in this way and from far away. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, all the best for your birthday. I'm very happy to be able to join you on your Vyasa Puja, and please accept my humble obeisances. And now we stop the engine, and hopefully there's going to be a little less disturbance from my side. Hare Krishna. A strange year unfolds before us, as so many of you and so many of us already said. The virus confides us to stay home, to stay in our neighborhoods, to stay where we are, and not so we are not able to join you in person and to see at your face and to be able to wash your feet on this auspicious day. We all long to see our friends and people important to us. We mourn our friends who happen to pass due to the virus or others. And the politics makes us shiver as well, both here in Europe and globally. It is at times difficult to understand what happens and what awaits us at the next corner. In all the turbulence, you show me what is the right perspective on things. You lost your dear friend, Bhakti Charaswami. When I heard of his departure, I wept. I wept that all ISKCON lost a great soul, and I wept because you lost a friend. It is so very rare to have such a companion in life. You showed us so beautifully how to react to such a loss with love, wisdom, and dignity. You gathered all of us around you to pay tribute to your dear friend. I pray I will never forget that lesson of yours. Life's current is rather strong for me now. Here it is. Nevertheless, I'm so thankful that Krishna allows me to remember you and him and to do a little service, however insignificantly little at times. I long to see you and to join my God siblings. In the meantime, I look how life unfolds, thanks to Krishna's arrangement. I'm so often in awe. Please bless me with the remembrance of what is important at all times. Please bless me with the awareness that I'm never alone. Please bless me with the privilege to please you one day. I hope you and all dear to you have a wonderful day today. Please grant me the blessing of being always aware of your presence in my life. Thank you so much. Your struggling servant, Mahavidya Das.
Jai, Jai, Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mahavidya Prabhu. Thank you very much. One thing I'm missing, I have to interject, is the loud applause that usually accompanies everyone's offering, but I'll try to be that loud applause. Next, I wanted to invite Gaura Shakti Prabhu to speak. If you can make sure that his microphone is unmuted, I will get him up here on the video. Just one moment. Are you there, Gaura Shakti Prabhu?
Yes. Can everyone hear me?
Everyone can hear you. Everyone can hear you.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Dear Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. As I left your wonderful Vyasa Puja celebration last year, I turned to my friend and godbrother, Sesasayi Visnu Das, and said, We definitely have to make the trip up for this next time. Little did I know that Krishna had different plans as far as what 2020 had in store for us all. Like everybody's mentioned, or not everybody, but a lot of people, when everything shut down this past spring, I started to feel a real separation from the devotees. With temples closed and programs canceled, I was worried that it would affect my sadhana. Luckily, I very quickly came to view this entire situation as an opportunity to actually enhance my spiritual practice rather than hinder it. This is due in no small part to the access that you have given to myself and all of us devotees during these unprecedented times. I was already regularly tuning in for Srimad Bhagavatam class on Sundays, but now you've given us a chance to listen to you read Krishna book every week as well. Having this steadiness in my practice has been so beneficial for me. Upon listening to these classes, I become inspired, and this inspiration helps with my bhakti so much. You're always there with me, even when I'm not in your physical presence. When I chant on the Japa Mala that I received last year upon officially becoming your disciple, these right here, I can actually feel the positive energy emanating from the Tulsi beads. It motivates me to chant while trying to give up offenses, just as you have advised me many times. I have also taken your instruction to heart of trying to preach Krishna consciousness to others, just as our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, has instructed you and all of his disciples. In one of our conversations, you told me to add Krishna wherever I can in my life. This is also something I've taken to heart. I would have absolutely no chance succeeding at any of this without you as my teacher. You are truly honoring Prabhupada's instructions in the most exemplary way. As much as it pains me that I'm not able to celebrate your Vyasa Puja in person this year, I am so thankful that I'm able to share this with you today in this manner. I look forward to continuing to serve you in any way I can. Your humble servant, Gaura Shakti Das. Hare Krishna.
Jai, Jai, Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Gaura Shakti Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now I would like to invite John Mulligan Prabhu, if he is there, if he's ready, he can unmute himself and I will get him up on the video in just a moment. Are you there, John? Can you hear us? Are you with us?
Hear me?
You can turn your volume up a little bit. A little more volume.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. You can go ahead and speak as loudly as you can if you're maxed out on volume there.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada, and all glories to you, Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu, on your appearance day. Hare Krishna. I'd like to express my gratitude to Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu for all the blessings I've received since having the good fortune of being in your association. Over the past few years, I've found that in whatever little insignificant ways I could be of service to you, I've been rewarded with a lasting contentment, a stronger sadhana, and a desire to deepen in Krishna consciousness. In your service, I have found validation in the words of Srila Prabhupada in his purport to Canto 4, Chapter 21, Text 39, where Prabhupada writes, "It is said that the Lord is most pleased when Krishna sees one engage in the service of his devotee. Krishna does not need any service from anyone because he is complete, but it is in our own interest to offer all kinds of services to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These services can be offered to the Supreme Person not directly, but through the service of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas." He goes on, "That means that unless one serves the Vaishnavas and Brahmanas, one cannot get liberation from the material clutches. I feel very much myself like Gajendra, with my legs still in the crocodile's mouth. I'm very inexperienced in Krishna consciousness. And so in that regard, I see that my best hope to get liberation and Krishna consciousness is through your blessings, seva, and association. And from this gift of Vaishnava Seva, I have basked in your kindness and compassion. Thank you for being in my life. And I ask also for your continued shelter as I pray to at last receive your Diksha this upcoming year. Thank you, and thank you for being in my life. Hare Krishna.
Jai, Jai, Jai. Thank you, John Prabhu.
Can I just jump in real quick? I also want to thank John and his wife Rosie. They're the ones that provided these beautiful vases that are in view for everybody to see. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So next I would like to invite, let's see here. We have time for maybe three or four more offerings. And if Kulapradipa Prabhu has something ready, or if he's ready to speak at least, I'll be happy to get him up on the video for all of us and unmute him. Yes. Jai, go right ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. Homage Introduction, Yananjana Shalakaya, Chakshur Unmilitamina, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I composed a poem. It's very rudimentary Hindi, so I apologize. I know there's Hindi speakers. Cover your ears. And Sanskrit. So I'd like to read it to you. It's entitled Tum. I know that there's formality and informality. I understand that.
He's reading it on the screen too, by the way. Kula, he's not ignoring you. He's also seeing you.
It's okay. It's okay. Tum. Okay. So asatoma sat gamya. Tamasoma jyotir gamya. Mritor ma mritam gamya. तुम अंधे के अंजने हो, तुम रेगिस्तान में पानी हो, तुम अंधेरे आकाश में प्रकाश हो, तुम रात के सागर में दीप स्तंभ हो। आप सिद्धांत के रक्षक है। आप श्रील प्रभुपाद के लिए मार्ग है। So the first part is quoted from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. You are the collyrium of one who is blind. You are the water oasis of the desert. You are the light in the dark sky. You are the lighthouse in the night ocean. You are the protector of Siddhanta, and you are the path that leads us to Srila Prabhupada. I also wanted to say many thanks to you again, but every year I tried, well, I don't have to try. Actually, it's very, I'm going to state two things that I'm particularly thankful to you for. One is that just a few months before or around the time that the pandemic started, I was offered a position in to be a head pujari at a temple. And as I was talking to Shraddha on the phone, she said that to you, and I heard in the background, he's like, I heard you say, "That's a bad idea." And then I talked to Shraddha. She's like, "Oh, you guys can talk on Tuesday." So we had a meeting on Tuesday, and the main thing that really, I didn't end up taking the position. Of course, There were other factors, but also the pandemic was one of the major reasons. Well, it didn't happen, it just everything kind of shut down. And I haven't thought about it since, but when I spoke to you, one thing that really affected me is that one is you have this experience that's very practical and very wise, and you were sharing that with me, and you said to me, and I always remember it, you said, it's just, here's what it is, you're a nice guy and I don't want anyone taking advantage of you. And I think there is a reality sometimes when systems are moving, like we get, they may work out people, like you may have people in a system and people don't think like that this person is doing a lot. And it was wise advice, and I thank you for that. But what that was the one thing, but it really ties in to what many people have been saying today, that you deal with people, you don't necessarily just give instructions, you give them care. And that goes to the second thing, of which I'm very thankful to you for, is that I just finished my first training for clinical pastoral care, and I've been a chaplain. And I always give credit to even everybody there, is that I heard this lecture series that changed my life when I was a young man, The Cure of Souls, and I learned about Anton Boysen from my guru. You'd be surprised how many Christians find that very interesting. But it is a mark of your contribution to a social, a community that maybe at times didn't take the time to listen to people. Like Paramananda had said, like you asked him, what do you want to do? A lot of times maybe we, just for the purpose of making things work, we just give instruction, or we tell people it has to be done, instead of saying, well, listening to the individual and caring about the community. And I see that with you, and as we speak about Bhakti Charamaj also, I saw that with him. I see both of you in that same light. And I'm thankful for you. The deepest gratitude for everything you've taught and everything you've given. And I look forward to learning more. And I pray that you show that light and that wisdom. Thank you.
Jai, Jai, Jai. Thanks so much, Kulapradipa Prabhu. Jai, Jai, Jai. So, looking at the schedule, we'll like to leave enough time for Gurudev to speak, which would be good if he started around 10 after 1. So we have time for, I think, 2 more offerings. And we hope that's all right with everyone. Gurudev's got his schedule today as well. So next, I would like to invite Yugalarasa to speak. And we'll see how good her internet connection is. She said it was kind of shaky, but we're going to give it a try. So please go ahead and unmute yourself, Yugalarasa. I'll put you on the video. And Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisances, so Glorious Prabhupada, It's very strange setting, of course, to speak like that. After all this Vyasa Puja for all these years that we were all together, I kind of have to compensate, imagining that I'm sitting in one room with you. But I wanted a little bit to talk about that when I was thinking a few days ago, what the deepest thing in my heart that I would like to tell you is that when I think of you, the first thing that comes, it's not the first thing that comes. As soon as I think of you, your qualities comes into my mind. And I was thinking it's interesting because I don't try to think specifically about something, but the qualities comes in my mind. And I realized that it's because you living by example. It's because you are so true to your words and to your actions that your words and actions and your thoughts they're not different, they're all the same. And that is a definition in the Shastras of a saintly person. Then in relationship with that, I think about myself, where I am in relationship with that, and I see that I don't have enough appreciation and gratitude that I really, really would like to have, Gurudev, for everything you did to me. I know that I'm never going to be able to repay for your kindness, for saving me, for your patience with me, for such a patience with me. You actually let me grow with your patience. Just, you don't even have to say much. The only thing I can do is I desire to surrender myself. I only thing I can do is surrender myself to you. But even that I'm not able to do without your help, because I am just a beggar. That's the reality. So even on your birthday, I have to ask your help. I have to ask you, please help me, that I could surrender to you and properly feel real gratitude and appreciation for everything you're doing for me. Thank you, Gurudev.
Jai, Jai, Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Vyasa Prabhu. Next, I would like to invite Ratna-bhusana-bhusana Prabhu, who's in Sweden, to speak to us. And go ahead and unmute yourself. I'll get you up on the video. And then after Ratna-bhusana-bhusana Prabhu speaks, I think it would be a very healthy and welcome time for another short stretch. And then we'll ask Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu to address us. And we'll go from there. So Ratna-bhusana-bhusana Prabhu, please go ahead and unmute yourself. And
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai. So just before reading my homage, I just wanted to say that the co-kirtaniya that was helping me sing the Guru Vandam was my baby sister Manjari. And she's not so little anymore. She's 18, but she's such a steadfast and loyal supporter. And she was very joyful to be able to sing along with me. So that was Manjari. Namashreshnam manumapi shachiputram atra svarupam rupam tasyagrajam urupurim maturim goshravatim radha kundam girivaramaho radhika madhavasham prapto yasya pratita kripaya shri gurum tam natosmi. I bow down to my spiritual master, by whose eminent mercy I have received the supreme name, the Gayatri mantra, the son of Shachi, Sri Svarupa Damodaram, Sri Rupa and his older brother, the great city of Mathura, the pasturing grounds, Radha Kund, the chief of all mountains, and most pointedly of all, the hope of attaining Radhika and Madhava. Dear Srila Gurudev, kindly accept my prostrated obeisances at your feet. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. It was the final day of our pilgrimage to Vrindavan, me, Manjari, and Mom. I completed packing my luggage. There was one last place we had planned to visit before leaving, an old temple in a small village Mom had been to once before. We took the taxi there. On the way, we passed the forest I recognized, One of the bhajan spots of Rupa Goswami and a shrine dedicated to Shri Giriraj were situated there. When we finally arrived to the village, Mom was eager to show me a sacred well located there. The pujari informed me that the water was nectar, aromatic and magical, and whatever would be invoked there would be granted. I was skeptical how clean the water was or how special this well could really be. Just then a pilgrim came forward, and in response to his audible wish, a pair of watches materialized before our eyes on the surface of the water. I was completely taken aback, but immediately stepped forward and uttered, Radhe Shyam. Instantly, two brilliant deities of Radha and Krishna emerged out of the water, and the pujari placed them in my fold. I was in sheer bliss and shock as I spontaneously embraced them. A practical consideration came to my mind. How will I fit them in my luggage? I resolved, if I need to, I'll throw everything else away to make space for them. And that's when that wonderful dream came to an end. So that was a joyful vision filled with lessons and inspiration. But there are seasons in our journey. Things are not always so blissful. You once said, we are not the architects of our own advancement. No, we are not in control of how our story unfolds. For me, this last year, and especially these last 5 months, have been anything but magical. Just a chronic bowel disease and much physical pain and oppression. With this ongoing health complication, I've been painfully learning to cherish the time given to me, for I really don't know when my time and health will be up. I'm also learning to become humble about my abilities, for I realize they're all sustained exclusively through the grace of Krishna. And probably the most difficult lesson of them all, to practice to not get distracted from Krishna, even during physical oppression. How else could I ever aspire to pass the test of death? Yet, challenging times doesn't cancel all that came before it. I still cherish the memory of our daily walks on the electric trolley trail, our outings together, and the insights you shared. For example, you said, a part of the infinite is infinite. Krishna is unlimited. When he pays attention to you, that loving attention is infinite. Or another lesson you said, when we are properly situated, the super soul will change our mindset and we'll come to perceive reality differently, like a scientific paradigm shift. I'm also grateful for that magical moment of chanting Gayatri all together at the top of that waterfall. And I'm grateful for you so kindly accompanying me to the train early that morning and seeing me off. So I brought many memories from my visit to Hudson, New York last summer, but especially a jewel-like lesson that will guide me for the rest of my life. This lesson was not given as a matter of precept, but through practical observation and experience. You are so conspicuously unceremonious, natural, and past details of decorum that at one point during my stay, I came to recognize just how much pratishta or pride is sometimes unconsciously invested in external formalities and protocol, even within a spiritual tradition. Ceremony and external formalities are not necessarily signs of great devotion. And when you, without a second thought and without a trace of ostentatious display, did the plumbing in our toilet when it wouldn't flush, it left me literally stunned, the guru cleaning after the disciple. That sort of unself-conscious humility is something I could have never understood just by reading a book. And so in the end, I'm reminded that it's really not our business to be omniscient, just as you said. Krishna's perfection working in our lives does not depend on what physical or mental state we're in. Everything that happens has a fundamental rightness to it. It's just what is needed and what is appropriate for our ultimate progress. For it all arises from the absolute goodness of Krishna's being. And the only way we can grow toward the serenity of this perspective is to let go of our vanity and allow growing humility within. So I thank you for this abiding lesson. May I be able to apply it deeply in my own life in order to attain that sincerity and intensity of pure desire for Radheshyam that will have them manifest themselves from the wellspring of my inner heart. Your grateful servant, Ratna-bhusana-bhusana Das.
Jai, 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 Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Ratna-bhusana-bhusana Prabhu. All right, we've reached a point in our program where, so that we can move forward happily and pleasantly and hear from Gurudev in a few minutes, we'll have a 2-minute stretching and kirtan break and be back together at 10 after or 11 after, perhaps. Not so much time, but I think that's the best thing. If that's all right, we can take a brief stretching break and then come back, and Gurudev, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
What happened? What happened? I can't.
All right, Hare Krishna. So now I would like to ask Srila Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu to address us, and thank everyone so much for attending. Hare Krishna. All right, we're gonna make sure that unmute. Just a moment, let me make sure that the audio is proper. I'm trying to find that. Okay. All right, apparently Gurudev is unmuted on my end, so
Is this one audible?
That's totally audible, yes.
Okay, there must have been an issue with the other one. So here you go. Sorry, you'll have to hold this.
Okay.
Techno Bob.
Yes.
Is that close enough, or I can't tell. Huh? It's okay. Again, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to have been able to do some service for Srila Prabhupada. We always wondered whether his movement would go on after him, and it seems like it has. And now, listening to you, I have some faith it will continue to go on. These are, as everyone has noted, trying times. The coronavirus has not only removed one of my best friends, but put us in this very interesting position where we can't relate to each other on a face-to-face basis very well anymore, at least for a while, because we're all a danger to each other. This is our situation now in America and around the world practically. I don't ever remember anything like this ever happening. Something, there was a flu epidemic in 1918, but that just killed a lot of people. But this prolonged idea where we cannot be together in a physical way. So we have to find the spiritual way to be together. That's our mission. I've been asked a number of times what I think Krishna is up to, because it happens because somehow either Krishna wanted it or he allowed it to happen. But we have to, as devotees, maybe not figure it out, but try to utilize the energy of the negative to achieve a positive result. With this situation that we're in now, I can see some of the ways that if we actually come to terms with the problems that we have, we meaning the whole human race, then a lot of the programs that Srila Prabhupada gave us will be vital. Prabhupada once summarized our movement in a few words. It was when he was traveling around, in the very early days, traveling around Europe and the world with Shyamasundar as his one of his aides. And Shyamasundar was typing things out and mailing them. We didn't, this is pre-internet, almost pre-computer days. And he would type out a little newsletter and mail it out to the temples. And because Shyamasundar had a kind of stream of consciousness way of writing, it was a little hard to know where, he talked and Prabhupada began. But here he was quoting Srila Prabhupada, and he said, preaching is the essence, books are the basis, utility is the principle, and purity is the force. And I thought, wow, is that ever a great summary of our movement? Preaching is the essence, to preach Krishna consciousness. Utility is the basis, engaging everything in Krishna's service, just like this microphone and this giant screen in front of me, and something that's bringing me all your faces from all different places around the world. That's utility. If it can be used in Krishna's service, you don't reject it. Preaching is the essence, books is the basis, utility is the principle, and purity is the force. I wrote it down and put it on my bulletin board. And when Rupanuga, who was my GBC, came, he said, well, that's pretty good. Where is that from? And I said, well, it's this newsletter of Shamasundar. I realized not everybody had time to read them. And I showed him, are you sure that's Prabhupada? He says, oh, yeah, that's Prabhupada. Because there was no punctuation marks. Shamasundar was doing away with them. So I've always found this to be our kind of instructions from Srila Prabhupada, what to do. And then when ISKCON ran into some trouble, and dealing with that trouble ended up putting me on the GBC, some people were saying purity is the farce. Instead of purity is the force. But now I'm almost forgot where I was. So our job is really to carry on Srila Prabhupada's mission and take whatever is happening in the world around us and accept it as, our environment. It's there. Some things we can't change. But how can we engage everything for Krishna's service? Utility is the principle, and therefore we've never hesitated to accept technology when it can be used in Krishna's service. If it can't, then we ignore it. And so we're using this technology today. The other technology is messing us up. Because you can see what has happened with the misuse of technology. You can see what's responsible for global warming, for the pollution of the oceans, for so many bad things. And that's also technology. But it's the technology you can't use in Krishna's service. So this technology, it occurred to me that this communications technology is a way, even now we have this coronavirus around us, that we can associate with each other, and we can. It's really better face to face. So there's something there that passes among people when they're meeting together physically. But this is pretty good. It's better than there's been before, as far as technology goes. And so, because Prabhupada wanted, you see what Prabhupada did, Krishna consciousness movement was pretty much restricted, first of all, to Bengal, and then to large parts of India. And it was really the pioneers of Bhaktivinoda Thakur who had this vision of spreading it around the whole world. And they used technology. Prabhupada used the printing press. Bhakti Siddhanta actually started with the printing press. So much of what Prabhupada has done, not just technology, but sometimes social organizations. Like, for example, Prabhupada made this institution with what he called the Governing Body Commission. To an American ear, that has a very British sound to it. And it turns out, one devotee told me that there's a place in London where the office is there that has a plaque on it. This is the office of the Governing Body Commission. That was the group of British civil servants and politicians that ran India. That's what the Governing Body Commission was. And so that organization also was something that could be used in Krishna's service. So when Prabhupada said utility is the principle, so we have to take all of these together, Books are the basis. And so, first of all, there were Prabhupada's books in which he wrote in English and tried his best to explain everything. And I think any communication mode will be good for that. And you can do it in a way that other people can understand you, to communicate. and he and Bhakti Siddhanta, had the printing press. That was like a shrine practically in the Gaudiya Math, the printing press. And now we are here. Purity is the force. So we should work on that purity. The formula for Krishna consciousness is also, in many ways, quite simple. That we should chant the Hare Krishna mantra while following the four regulative principles. It's really simple. Notice how, like, the Hare Krishna mantra is simple. All of Vedic knowledge is there, but there's 3 words. You don't know any Sanskrit? Hare Krishna Rama. Easy enough, right? And especially to me, when we chant japa, it's a very simple arena. When we chant japa, there's you, the holy name, and your mind. And Prabhupada writes that the yoga system deals with the mind. It's all about the mind, the subtle body. And I think while we're here in quarantine or whatever shape we're in now, we have to deal with the subtle body. Wherever we go, it comes with us. In fact, the subtle body has come with us through many lifetimes. Because when you transmigrate, it's not just the soul that goes, it's the subtle body. God knows what's in there. We've had it for so long, you don't know what's lurking out there. And so here, where you have this arena, yourself, the holy name, and the mind, you chant the holy name so that it, as it says in the Bhagavatam about devotional service, it dissolves the subtle body of the living entity. So that means the subtle body, which has all that karma and all that junk in it, you treat it like this. And the treatment is simple, that you have to honor the holy name. You have to respect the holy name. That means you have to pay attention. Inattention is disrespect. When somebody wants your attention, they're talking to you and you're looking everywhere else, winding your watch or whatever you're doing, that's disrespectful, or as we say, offensive. And I read, there's one thing that Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that really struck me, that he said, inattentive while chanting is the offense from which all other offenses spring. So that is what the Germans call the Schwerpunkt. That's the place where you go. That's where when you do martial arts, there's these places in your body, you hit them and the guy dies. So this is where you have to, they're called marma, actually, in Ayurvedic medicine, they're called marma. And in the Shishastaka, marma hatam karotva, make me brokenhearted, we translate it, but he hits me in the marma, those fatal pains. So we have, this is the place, the Schwerpunkt, this paying attention to the holy name. Give the holy, because Krishna and Krishna's name are the same. Nama Chintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddham Nityamukto Abhinatva Nama Namanaha. When it's describing the name, it has all these properties. It's complete, it's pure, it's eternally liberated. How can it have these simple syllables, Krishna, all these incredible potencies in them and properties? Abhinatva, because of abhina, non-difference, nama, namana, between the name and that which is named. When I was a graduate student in religious studies, one person said once in a class, he says, the real issue isn't whether or not God exists. He said, the real issue is God available? And it struck me then because, yeah, if God exists and isn't available, what difference does it make? So the question is God available? And when I discovered the Krishna consciousness, oh, this is how God is available. Very accessible. Those who practice Ashtanga yoga, they go to the Himalayas, they sit in ice caves, they work so hard. In Christianity and others, you read about different saints, how much they do to get some kind of vision of God and some association. So it's been made easy for us. Let us not waste it. It's such a benediction, such a thing that we've been given. Let's not waste it. And so that means that every time we sit down to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, we pay attention. The mind wanders, we bring it back. When we do that, we're showing Krishna that we're interested in a relationship. Once the holy name really reveals itself, the mind is glued because it's all attractors like Krishna. You can't not think of Krishna. So we have to come to that point. And we have to become ultimately Krishna's instrument in full. And there's not one of us who can't do this if we just apply ourselves. And if you look at the whole thing, from beginning from Ador Shraddha up to Prema, you say, but just take that next step. If you're willing to take the next step, Krishna shows us the next step. Take that step, and then you'll see the next step. And take the next, don't hesitate sitting on this edge, for like 45 years waiting for something to happen. And then the time of death comes, you say, Jesus, I blew it, Don't do like that. So that's what, and the world needs it, because when there are Krishna conscious people, things begin to change. I think things have started to changing already. I can start to see now how Prabhupada's vision, for example, of local self-sufficiency is going to have to be something we're going to have to get into, because you can see how the climate is changing, how the oceans are polluting, how it's overheating everywhere. It's all because, of this globalism, and an improper globalism. Well, why, so he wants local self-sufficiency, but that doesn't mean that we also can't be united in other ways, like using the appropriate technology like the one we're using today. So I think there is a plan. Prabhupada, told us this is supposed to be a golden age of Krishna consciousness after Lord Chaitanya. And maybe we question whether it began with Lord Chaitanya's birth or the 500th anniversary. The different pundits said different things, apparently. So we are in what is supposed to be a golden age of Krishna consciousness. And the more we become Krishna conscious ourselves and give it to others, share it with others, the more our own Krishna consciousness will increase, because that will give us all, not just Srila Prabhupada, but all the lineages of our spiritual masters and great devotees, the 6 Goswamis. They'll all become happy with us. And when they become happy with us, then they really help us out. That's how the mercy flows, when we please those people. So that's just my plea today. I thank you so much for your involvement in Krishna consciousness, and I'm trying to do everything I can do with what little bit I have to help. And if you can do some more, I'll also get some credit for that with Krishna too. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gauranga Prabhu ki jai.
Jai. Srila Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
And now I would like to unmute everyone so they can also say, Srila Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu ki jai.
Happy birthday, Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Hari,
Yeah.
Hari, Hari.
I think we have perhaps a
Hare Krishna, Manjari. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Happy Vyasa Puja.
Jai.
Happy Vyasa Puja to Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Happy Vyasa Puja.
So I think we still have a few minutes, if that's correct, with Sraddhadevi's blessings. We can have, maybe if there are some questions, you can raise your hand or mention that you have a question in the chat window before we have to sign off. I'll make sure that the proper people are unmuted and their video is up.
Okay.
Right now,
All
I'm
right,
trying
go
to.
ahead.
Okay.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Is that Haryasva Prabhu?
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Oh,
please go ahead.
Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu, oh, it was on fire, you know, and you went there with all the gifts of Prabhupada, with the trying times right now. You went straight at the holy name. You went right to that process. I find that one of the biggest strengths I found from you is that no matter what happens, I told you, you're able to cut on the lights. And today you're explaining to us that, you know, and I want you to explain further, that it's right there in the holy name. If we just take advantage of the gift that Prabhupada gave, that you're continuing to give, that you're all giving, but it just doesn't come easy. You know, I mean, I've been begging to you for help in a better situation. I just don't know how we can get steady. You know, it comes sometimes, but you say it's simple, but it seems difficult to cross that point to where every day that relationship with Non-Prabhu is a conscious one, where you're conscious, where you fight and you don't let the mind take your way, which is required if we're going to move on to be used in a better way. So maybe, I don't know, maybe you can just explain, because when you get to that point where you're trying, but somehow these obstacles don't even stay, they just frustrate you. What do you do? How is it that you just have to develop a certain tolerance? I don't know. Maybe you can share that.
You don't, am I on? You don't quit. And even if you quit, you come back. You get back up and you keep going. That's the only thing I can suggest, is you don't quit. Remember, the three, you know, there's offensive chanting, chanting on the clearing stage, and pure chanting. Now, you can't get to the pure stage right away, but you can immediately get to the clearing stage by just trying, by just, and when your mind wanders and you bring it back, that's the clearing stage. And things will happen if you just persevere. I have to apologize to Krishna. Look, you know, this is my mind. I don't know what's in there. So much garbage is there. I don't know how it got in there. Please forgive me. Please help me. You can chant with the holy name, to the holy name, for the holy name. It's like all those three are available. So that's also, the intensity is there. And just don't stop. You persevere, you persist. And you will find out that it will gradually become better. Something will happen. You know, the stars change. Your mind is sometimes good. The mind is sometimes bad. You go through different periods, you know. I'm in an astrological period. This is I'm in a major period of Ketu in a minor period of Rahu. So guess what, you know? So I'm trying to take advantage of all that bad stuff and try to get some positive results from a negative energy, you know? And so that to me is just what you have to do. Just don't quit. And if you do quit, get back into it again. You know, get up again. And then Krishna, if you, the determination is there, Krishna will give you the strength. Make something will happen. And the other thing that's encouraging to me is that my realization that what Prabhupada said some things to make to understand that the future is objectively fuzzy. Krishna knows this will happen in the future, but whether I do it or somebody else does it or that's a little fuzzy, because we have freedom, and that freedom means that even for God, the future is indeterminate to some extent. He's omniscient. He knows it. He knows, but time is real, so he knows the future as the future. Because he says, "Time I am." You know, I mean, it's one of Krishna's powerful energies. And Prabhupada says to us, he said to us, it is inevitable that Lord Chaitanya's mission will come over the world. You do it yourself and take the credit. Otherwise, somebody else will. So that means that if you do it, somebody else will. So that means that we do have that ability to actually change the future. And if we care about ourselves and also about other people, having that power, which very few people have, we will be able to change the future.
Srila Gurudev, may I ask a question?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving your association and for all the things you've said. Probably because my faith is not so strong, I have to ask this question. It seems like many, many devotees around the world have been doing many of the right things for a very long time. And at the same time, almost like at the beginning of Krishna book, when Mother Earth complains about the heaviness of the forces of the demons, it feels like the demonic forces are very, very strong right now. And, you know, will we get an avatar like Krishna always promises, yada yada hi dharmasya? Is this our team? Is this all we get? Is this all we have? Or is there an avatar coming to right the world?
As far as I know, Krishna is, Lord Chaitanya is that avatar that has come for Kali Yuga. And certainly he can send many more empowered devotees or other people who descend. They're not God, you know, the Shakti Avesh avatar, maybe not be in the category of God, but the category of good devotees. If our desire is strong and the strength of our desire is determined by how hard we try and how hard that even if we have a fall back or fall down or slow down or whatever, we pick it up again. Krishna will send those people that we need to help us. And I've seen it happen a number of times. There was one time I saw the whole Hare Krishna movement was on the brink of like destruction, I thought. And then I could see that Krishna made his move. You know, just one thing, and that was it. Just amazing. So our message to Krishna is the sincerity with which we're trying to become better. And anyone who's seriously trying to become better is good, is not bad. Just that sincerity, even though there may be so many faults and difficulties, but you keep sincerely trying. And I think that's within our power. And if we sincerely try and the desire is there, he'll help us.
Thank you very much.
You too can save the world.
All right, Krishna. All right, Gurudev, thank you so very much for attending and speaking to us. And I understand you've got places to go and things to do. So I wanted to take the last opportunity here and thank all the people who sponsored today's event, making this possible. I want to thank Sraddhadevi for coordinating things. And
she really worked hard.
She always does. And I would like to give everybody another opportunity to say Jai, Hari Bol, happy birthday, and all that sort of thing. And on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
Hari
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jai Gurudev.
Happy birthday.
Jai Gurudev.
Haribol. Thank you all so much.
Jai Gurudev.
Still want some cookies.